Sometimes, the loudest stories are the ones never spoken, and the deepest emotions are hidden behind the quietest glances. This is the story of a love that bloomed in the silence of an office, where sometimes, the most profound relationships begin in the most ordinary ways, in places where you least expect them. For me, it was the office, a world filled with spreadsheets, deadlines, and monotonous routines. Every day felt like a repetition of the last, the same faces, the same tasks, the same rhythm. And yet, amidst the monotony, there was a spark waiting to appear, something that could change the ordinary into something extraordinary. I never imagined that someone could enter my life not through fate's dramatic twists but quietly, almost invisibly, like a whisper of wind passing through a window. It began with the smallest gestures, an accidental brush of hands as we reached for the same stapler, a shared glance over a crowded meeting table, a laugh at a joke that no one else found funny. Each interaction seemed insignificant to the world outside, yet inside, it felt like the first page of a story being written in secret. I began to notice things I had never paid attention to before, the way they tucked a strand of hair behind their ear when deep in thought, the softness of their voice when they spoke about something they loved, the way their eyes seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken words. These small details became my world, turning mundane office corridors into a landscape of possibilities and quiet excitement. What made it even more remarkable was the unpredictability of it all. I never knew when our paths would cross or when a fleeting moment would leave my heart racing. There was no script, no plan, only a series of chance encounters that seemed almost orchestrated by some unseen force. Every day brought new surprises, a shared coffee break, an accidental meeting in the supply room, an unexpected conversation in the elevator, that slowly built a connection neither of us had anticipated. It was in these ordinary moments that an extraordinary bond began to form, a connection that didn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations to exist. I found myself looking forward to these moments with a mix of excitement and trepidation, as if each interaction was both a promise and a question. Each day, the connection grew stronger, yet it remained unspoken, a silent thread weaving our lives together in ways that words could never fully capture. It was an understanding that didn't need explanation, a closeness that didn't require acknowledgement, and a sense of anticipation that made every ordinary moment extraordinary. Every glance, every smile, and every moment shared carried a world of feelings unspoken. In a world full of words, sometimes it is silence that speaks the loudest. In the office, where conversations revolved around deadlines and presentations, I discovered a secret language that needed no words at all, the language of glances. It started with a fleeting look across the room, a moment so brief that anyone else might have missed it, yet for us, it carried everything. A single glance could hold curiosity, admiration, longing, or even a gentle reassurance, and in that moment, the rest of the world disappeared. It was astonishing how much could be conveyed in such subtle gestures. A shared glance during a tense meeting could ease my anxiety as if silently saying, "I'm here, and I understand." A look exchanged in the break room over spilled coffee could spark laughter without a single syllable. I began to realize that these glances were not accidental, they were a carefully crafted, almost instinctive way to communicate emotions we were too hesitant to voice aloud. Each time our eyes met, it was a conversation in itself, a dialogue that bypassed the noise of daily life and reached straight to the heart. I became acutely aware of every detail, the slight widening of their eyes when surprised, the subtle tilt of their head when listening, the way a smile would play at the corners of their lips when our gazes met. Each movement, each fleeting expression, seemed to carry hidden meanings, layered with nuance and unspoken desire. I found myself memorizing these small gestures, interpreting their silent messages, and feeling a thrill each time I recognized the emotion behind a single glance. There was an intimacy in this silent communication that words could never replicate. It allowed us to share our thoughts, our feelings, and even our fears without ever breaking the professional decorum that surrounded us. The world around us could remain oblivious, yet in those brief moments, we existed in a private universe where understanding and connection flowed effortlessly. It was a delicate dance of eyes and expressions, a symphony of silent signals that built a closeness so profound it was almost tangible, a quiet intimacy that neither time nor circumstance could diminish. Love often reveals itself in moments when we feel the most exposed, when the walls we build around our hearts begin to crumble. In the quiet confines of the office, I discovered that vulnerability was the bridge that connected us in ways words never could. It wasn't in grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but in small, seemingly insignificant moments when our true selves peeked through the layers we carefully maintained. I remember the first time I saw them frustrated over a mistake on a report. Their composed demeanor cracked just slightly, a sigh escaping before they could hide it, and I felt a surge of empathy, a desire to reach out and be there, even if only through a shared glance. It was in these tiny cracks that our connection deepened. We began to notice when the other struggled silently, when a day had been harder than usual, or when a fleeting expression betrayed feelings that were meant to stay hidden. And yet, there was no judgment, only understanding, a recognition that both of us carried fears, insecurities, and dreams beneath the surface. Those moments of vulnerability created a safe space, a silent promise that even without words, we would be there for one another. I recall the first time I unintentionally witnessed a moment of their genuine emotion, a tear that threatened to escape during a stressful presentation. I felt an overwhelming urge to offer comfort, yet our professional surroundings demanded restraint. And so, I settled for subtle gestures, a supportive glance, a reassuring smile, a gentle nod that conveyed more than words ever could. These moments, fleeting as they were, allowed us to touch each other's hearts without crossing the boundaries that reality imposed. Vulnerability became our secret language, an intimate connection woven into the fabric of our daily lives. It wasn't dramatic or loud, but it was powerful. Sharing these silent truths, even indirectly, made our bond richer, deeper, and more profound. Every act of openness, every unguarded glance, every small confession through actions rather than speech brought us closer in a way that felt both tender and exhilarating. I found myself cherishing these moments more than any spoken word, realizing that true intimacy often lies in the courage to reveal our hidden selves, to risk being seen, and to trust someone enough to let them witness the parts of us that are usually reserved for the heart alone. There is a peculiar tension in loving someone silently, especially when that someone is so close yet just out of reach. In the office, where every interaction was observed and every word measured, our feelings existed in a delicate balance between longing and restraint. Each day, I felt the pull of desire to speak, to confess, to let my heart be known, yet the reality of our surroundings held me back. The silence became both a comfort and a challenge, a private space where our connection thrived, and a cage that kept it contained. Every glance, every fleeting touch, carried unspoken words that could never safely escape. I would catch myself rehearsing sentences in my mind, imagining how I might reveal my emotions in a world without judgment or consequence. But the fear of disrupting professional boundaries, of altering the fragile harmony of our environment, kept my lips sealed. And yet, the tension was electric. Every interaction was layered with meaning, every shared moment tinged with a quiet, almost unbearable intensity. I became acutely aware of the delicate dance we performed, balancing between closeness and propriety, desire and discretion. It was the small things that amplified the conflict. A brush of hands while passing a document, a shared smile across a crowded room, the subtle leaning in during a collaborative discussion, each innocent act became a battlefield between the heart and reason. The silence pressed heavily at times, making the longing sharper, the anticipation more pronounced. There were moments when I wanted to reach out, to let the words spill freely, only to remind myself of the consequences, of the fragile line we walked each day. Yet, this conflict of silence was not without its own beauty. It heightened every interaction, made every glance charged with emotion, and every shared laugh feel like a secret celebration. The restraint forced us to find new ways to communicate, to convey emotions through subtle gestures, fleeting expressions, and shared understanding. And in this struggle, I discovered an intimacy that was profound and exhilarating, a closeness forged in restraint, and a love that grew stronger precisely because it could not always be voiced. Love does not always announce itself with grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes, it whispers softly, weaving itself into the simplest moments and the quietest corners of our lives. In the office, amidst the hum of computers and the shuffle of papers, I discovered a love that thrived in silence, a love that didn't need applause or acknowledgement to exist. It was in the stolen moments between tasks, the brief exchanges of smiles, the shared laughter over an inside joke that no one else understood, and the gentle understanding that passed between us without a single word spoken. There was a magic in these quiet interactions, a sense of intimacy that made even the most ordinary days extraordinary. I found myself cherishing the subtle gestures, a coffee placed on my desk without a word, an encouraging glance across the room during a stressful presentation, a hand lightly brushing against mine while reaching for the same document. Each of these moments carried a depth of feeling far greater than anything overtly expressed. It was a love that existed in the nuances, in the unsaid, and in the fleeting seconds where our hearts met without speaking. The beauty of this quiet love was in its patience and its subtlety. There was no rush, no demand for immediate acknowledgement, only a steady, growing connection that revealed itself gradually. I learned to read the small cues, to notice the tilt of a head, the warmth of a smile, the softness in a gaze, and to respond with the same gentle understanding. Every shared look became a conversation, every unspoken thought a bond, every fleeting gesture a memory etched into my heart. This love taught me to appreciate the present moment, to find joy in the smallest of interactions, and to recognize that intimacy does not always require words. It allowed me to experience the thrill of anticipation, the sweetness of shared secrets, and the comfort of knowing that someone else understood me in ways no one else could. It was a love that existed in quiet corners, in the spaces between sentences, in the silence that spoke volumes, and in the moments when our hearts connected more deeply than our words.